Asterisk, Grandpa died last night. I stared at my father's text, waiting to feel something, anything. But all I felt was cold rage bubbling up from a place I'd buried 15 years ago. Because while everyone would cry at his funeral and call him a saint, I knew the truth. And I had exactly 4 days to decide if I was going to stand up at that funeral and tell everyone what Grandpa really was, or let him take his secrets to the grave. Asterisk. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Cousins, aunts, uncles, all sharing memories of wonderful Grandpa Joe. He was so generous. Such a kind soul. Heaven gained an angel. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. An angel? This man destroyed my childhood, and now I was supposed to show up, wear black, and pretend to mourn? My hands were shaking. My wife Emma grabbed my shoulder. Babe, you okay? I couldn't answer. How you explain that the man everyone's canonizing was a monster who made you afraid of your own shadow? Let me tell you who Grandpa Joe really was. When I was 8 years old, my parents divorced. Dad got custody, but he traveled for work constantly, so I stayed with Grandpa every weekend. Everyone thought he was doing us a favor. Joe, such a hero, raising that boy. But behind closed doors, Grandpa had rules. Impossible rules. Don't speak unless spoken to. Eat everything on your plate, or go hungry for 2 days. Cry, and he'd lock you in the basement until you learn to be a man. I was 8 years old, sobbing in pitch darkness, sometimes for 6 hours. But it got worse. When I turned 12, I made the mistake of telling him I wanted to be an artist. He laughed, called me weak, said art was for failures and women. Then he took every drawing I'd ever made, every sketchbook I owned, and burned them in the fireplace while I watched. I'm making you strong, he said, as my dreams turned to ash. I never drew again, not once in 23 years. At 15, I finally broke. I told my dad everything. You know what he said? That's just how Grandpa is. He's old school. He's trying to toughen you up. My own father chose him over me, so I learned to survive. I became whoever Grandpa wanted me to be on the surface while planning my escape. The day I turned 18, I left, changed my number, went to college across the country, built a life where Joseph Miller couldn't touch me. Now he was dead, and my father expected me to play the grieving grandson. The funeral is Friday. He asked about you before he died, you know, said he wished you'd visited. That text made me laugh bitterly. Wished I'd visited? So he could criticize me one more time? Tell me I'd wasted my life? I'd become a successful software engineer, married an incredible woman, built everything myself, and it still wouldn't have been enough for him. Wednesday night, I made my decision. I was going to that funeral, but I wasn't going to stay silent. Thursday, I wrote a speech. Every word true, every memory documented. I wasn't going to scream or cause a scene. I was simply going to stand up during the eulogy portion and tell the truth. Grandpa Joe taught me fear, not love, control, not guidance. He broke me systematically, and my father let it happen. Friday arrived. The funeral home was packed. Hundreds of people who knew the public Joe. I sat in the back, speech folded in my pocket, heart pounding. My father stood up first. My dad was my hero. He raised me right, taught me discipline. I felt Emma squeeze my hand. Then my uncle spoke. More lies, more praise. Finally, the priest asked, would anyone else like to share memories? I stood up. The room went silent. My father's face went white. I walked to the front, unfolded my paper, and looked at all those expectant faces. Then I saw her, front row, a girl, maybe 19, tears streaming down her face. Real tears, genuine grief. I didn't know her, but she was destroyed. And suddenly I realized whatever Joe was to me, he was something different to her. Maybe he'd changed. Maybe he hadn't. But destroying her memory wouldn't heal me. I refolded the paper. Grandpa Joe was complicated. I said slowly. He believed in discipline. He believed in strength. He wasn't perfect, but he was human. I looked directly at my father. And some wounds don't heal with words. They heal with distance. Rest in peace, Grandpa. I walked out and never looked back. My father hasn't spoken to me since. Good. That girl kept her memories. I kept my truth. And Joe's secrets? He took them to hell where they belong.